Hi, my name is Nick, and today we're going to make Easter bread. The first thing you're going to have to do is start your yeast, so we're going to do that next. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start my yeast here. I got my bulk yeast, 2¼ teaspoons of the yeast, approximately 1/4, maybe a half, doesn't matter. And 1 teaspoon of sugar. 1 teaspoon of sugar. There we go. And hot water from the tap. So turn that on. As hot as you can get it usually. I keep my yeast frozen, so it's gonna counteract a little bit. And give that a quick stir. That's 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2¼ teaspoons of yeast, or you can use 1 package of yeast that comes pre-measured. I like bulk yeast because I tend to do a lot of baking and it's a lot cheaper. So this will be set aside now. Okay, and we're going to weigh out our flour. I have a scale here. This scale goes up to 12 kilograms. For what we're going to be doing today, 1 kilo is enough, but 2 kilos is enough, but this is what you can find. I got this at a flea market for about 10 bucks, so it does the job and it's good enough for measuring stuff in the kitchen. The first thing you have to do is set your scale for 800 grams. So I have 300 there and 500 there, and now we're going to dump the flour in there very carefully because we don't want to make a mess. Okay. I like these plastic containers. They hold stuff really good. There we go. You can't see it too well, but the beam has popped up. Now we just keep pulling it away until it drops down a little bit to the level mark. And there it is. So that's our 800 grams of flour. Okay, so now I'm going to sift my flour here. I'm sure you can see that. I've got the screen there. Got the flour here. Just drop it in there. lumps, you just push them out. Only to break it up. And that's it. We can set this aside. And here's our yeast, all swollen up. And we're just gonna break that down so that the foam doesn't get too much, too messy. Also, there's undissolved yeast probably on the bottom. So by doing this, we get the undissolved stuff to melt a little bit. Okay, now we're ready to start the next phase. So we have our eggs here, and 3 of these eggs are going to go right into that right away. So you just crack an egg, drop it in there. I like getting the slime. There we go. Wash your hands for this next step. Do it quickly. Fourth egg. Now I scoop out the yolk and drop that in there. And this little bit of egg white, I just want to take some of that heavier egg white out and drop it in there because we don't need all that. You can't really see it, but the egg white has like a liquidy portion and more like a slimy portion. And I just dump that in there because we're not going to need that. We're going to need this here for brushing over top the loaf after it's risen the second time, and to make our seeds stick to it. Okay, so now we can start whisking that. Start whisking that. Got our whisk here. I'm gonna get my sugar now. So we need 1 cup of sugar for this. Very quickly. And that goes in. And we can put our salt in here now too for our recipe. And I'll just check. And it requires half a teaspoon of salt. So half a teaspoon of salt goes in there. And you need a tablespoon of oil. I like to use sunflower seed oil. It has a lighter taste, and even the taste of it is nicer. 1 tablespoon plus, maybe a little bit of spillage. No big deal. That'll have to be washed with soap. yeast is puffed up again, so I'll knock that down. Turn this on. Next thing we're going to do, we got our butter here. That's 1/16 of a pound of butter, and we're going to add to this 1 cup of milk. Then we're going to throw it in the microwave and heat it up. Sloppy. Okay, since our milk is microwaving, and we can put the yeast in now, because this stuff is cold, so it really doesn't matter too much. Put this in. You get most of it in there. Turn this back on. Get our flour that we set aside. Now we can add some of our flour. Okay, what I've done here is I've added enough flour to make it like a pancake batter in the pot there, and you know, it's drippy. It's pretty wet. You know, runs off the spoon. And now we're going to add our milk if it's ready. Oh, and it is. Milk is fairly hot. The butter's melted. You don't want it boiling hot, you just want it enough to melt the butter and hot to the touch. Flour in there. And the whisk, you know, can't handle a heavy dough, so what we have to do now is we have to stop it, change this. Change this out. Put our dough hook in. And the rest of our flour can all go in. This is going to blend until we've got the dough separating from the side of the bowl. It's too wet. It's really gooey. So now we're going to correct that. Now to correct this, you have to add a little bit of flour. So I'll grab another bunch of flour and we'll start adding it in. Maybe a cup. It shouldn't be much. Okay, so I sifted an extra cup of flour. I got it in here. Just drop some of that in there. About half of it. Turn this back on. Now you gotta be careful this stuff doesn't fly out of here. So here we go. So half a cup of flour makes all the difference. See how it pulls away? Now to do all this by hand takes you a long time. But here in the mixer, it just whips around nicely and cleans right up. Okay, so that's good enough. We're going to set this down and we're going to pull that apart and then pour about a tablespoon or so of oil on top. And now what you're going to do is you're going to coat that on the side, and I do this motion here to pull it away. There we go. Okay, so now it's the dough is all coated. The sides of the pan are more or less, bowl I mean, more or less coated. We get our scale. Our scale here, we're going to need a little bit of oil in our scale. Drips. What I'm doing is coating that scale with that oil. That'll stop the dough from sticking. And now we weigh this. And 1750. Exactly like I did it last time. Exactly 1750. The same amount of ingredients went in, so the weight comes out pretty much the same. What you're going to do is you're going to let this rise, cut it into 19 equal pieces. Well, for my pan, because it's a 12-inch pan, it comes out 19 equal pieces, and that way it fits perfectly. I don't have to squeeze anything in, it all works out. So we're going to put that in here. We're going to light up the oven, warm up the room, and just let it sit in the side. That slides right into there. And you can throw a wet rag over it. I don't really think it's necessary, but you clean up your kitchen and wait about 2.5 hours for it to rise. Now we have had this sitting on the stove for a while, and as you can see it's doubled, maybe tripled in size. Okay, so last time we had 1750 grams on the scale, so now we're going to go down to 92 grams, which more or less is somewhere around there. It doesn't really matter, it's not that important, but it helps to get your buns all about the same size. I've cleaned the counter. We're going to oil it, and then we're going to punch that down and get started. So, I don't know if you can see this, but anyway, we're going to pull this all out. Go in there. Keep one hand clean. Take the knife, and what I find is if you kind of get the dough into a length, you can almost cut it into 19 pieces. So it takes a little trial and error. That one's a bit heavy, so cut a piece off. Maybe easier to just do it this way. There, that's about right. So now all the other pieces I need will be about the same size as that. See, now that one's small, and it's better to have larger pieces than smaller ones, because you can trim it off and then make one piece that's got all the little bits in it. And you start turning it like this into a little ball. I don't know if you can see that really well, but you just keep folding it in on the bottom and pulling it out on the top, and now you got a little bun. Okay, and you set your little buns all in a row. Okay, here's a piece, and I'm going to work on it as close as I can to the lens here. And all you do is you fold it up and tuck the ends in, keep rotating it, pulling the sides in, pulling the top down, and you got a little bun. And that gets set aside. Now you need 19 of these. Okay, so I couldn't find my baking pan, but I have one of these spring-form pans. There's the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub Crisco all over this and all over the inside of that, Crisco shortening, and put it together like that. So now you could just throw these in there like that. What I tend to do is I roll them and tie them in a knot, and I'll show you that right now. So this is a small one, so I'll use that on the last. But usually you pick up your biggest one. That looks like my biggest one. Roll it into a cigar shape. Stretch it out a little bit. Wrap it around like that, and push through a knot like that. Okay, and that's the first one in the center. Then the other ones, they can go anywhere. You put 6 around that one, and the other 12 will go around the rest. Stretch it out, turn it around, poke it through, and that's your knot. Now, you see there's 2, 4, 6 around the center, and now 12 more will fit around that. And there we go. What I have here is two towels, damp towels, sitting on top. This is spaced so that when that rises it doesn't touch the top, because that'll screw things up. But you could always oil this if you want to clean it. I do it this way. Anyway, that goes on top. Drop your towels on top. Wait about an hour. Come back and check it. It should be to the level of the pan or just above. And then we'll be ready to throw this in the oven. Keep your kitchen warm. It helps make the yeast rise. I'll cover this. And there, it's almost doubled and almost over the edge. This is that little bit of egg wash. That we had left over. Okay. And now we get some sesame seeds. And now it's ready to go into the oven. So, 300 degrees, 1 hour. Okay, time to take it out of the oven. And there it is. Does it look good? It is good. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. This is still hot. I'm going to release the ring here. We're going to towel. It's hot on the bottom. Whoa. Hot, 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 hot. And there we go.
Here you can see how the buns pull apart and how flaky the pastry is inside, the bread is inside. It's usually very stringy and soft. It's very easy to roll into a ball. It's very tasty, very soft texture.